Lettermen Live, brought to you by Buyers Auto, back in HQ, back in Columbus after a week in Chicago and Big Ten Media Days. Zach, really bummed that you weren't there for it. Zach Boren, I should mention my co-host
it's okay.
in the building.
Yeah.
Bummed you weren't there to hang out. It was an interesting couple of days in Chicago.
I know. I was a little upset. I was paying attention from afar. But, man, there weren't many storylines from Ohio State's standpoint. You had, 3 guys that went that represent the team so well. I was able to do that at one point. It's so much fun. It's a great bonding experience kind of with the other captains, right, and the head coach. And Coach Day's a professional at what he does. You and I were talking about this, and Coach Day is taking this role in stride. He's great with the guys. He's great with the media. Honestly, the thing that we laugh about and the biggest news was just, Jim Harbaugh doing his same old thing and creating some talk and still taking jabs at Urban Meyer. And, I don't know how many jabs he can take at him. I mean, you at least got to be successful at some point over someone in order to take a jab.
I wondered how that would play with you and guys who played for Urban Meyer, because I sat there and I wrote about this on Friday that it was pretty clear to me that it was a deflection from 0-4.
Yep.
And it didn't really work because all it did was bring more attention to the rivalry, the game, and his record. Like, if that was his intent, well, he also followed that up by, if controversy follows Urban Meyer, it doesn't really stay that far away from Jim Harbaugh either, because he made some that exact same day with questioning mental health of a player who's trying to get a waiver that he's standing in the way of. Like, you're no different, buddy, but you're also 0-4 against him.
Here's the thing. When you are at a top football program in the NCAA, there's going to be controversy everywhere. There's controversy at Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma. There's controversy everywhere you look in college football, right? It's just the world that we're in nowadays. And so for Coach Harbaugh to try and deflect it and say, controversy follows Urban Meyer, like you just said, look in your own backyard. Look at the Schembechler Hall and what goes on in there. He's got the same stuff, right? With what his quarterbacks are saying, the transfer quarterbacks are saying that, the kid who went to UCLA, totally forget his name, but how Coach Harbaugh was so weird. The Shea Patterson tweet that we saw a couple weeks ago that we haven't even talked about, right? But supposedly from a fake account, we don't know if it's true or not, right? But some of the things that go on around the program are just odd, but it goes back to Coach Harbaugh's personality, right? But there's controversy there at the University of Michigan. There's controversy everywhere.
It's funny that, odd is the right word for him. Tim May, who's now joined us here at Lettermen Row for the season, tried to say, were you doing
Tim,
this?
welcome, by the way.
Yeah.
He's got to join us.
He's going to be on very soon. Yeah. Check out his podcast if you haven't. He's going to be hanging out with us on Lettermen Live this season as well. But he asked him specifically, was like, what is this intent? Are you trying to poke the bear? And Harbaugh says, I'm sorry, I don't use animal analogies. Well, that morning he had compared his team to an anaconda.
Yeah.
So he has such a selective attention span and so weird. You referenced all the things that go on. It's not like, even if you want to boil this down to he wanted to take a shot at Zach Smith, he's had players that were accused of some similar circumstances, whether it was the 49ers or Michigan. And I'm not here to discuss any of that because I don't think it's always a coach's responsibility to handle that. You got 105 players. You want to run as clean a program as you can, but nobody in college football at the high level is ever going to be perfect. And I think if you look at Urban Meyer in particular, this guy hasn't left any sort of NCAA problems behind him. Look at the overall rising GPA. I could list all the things.
Yeah.
The program is as secure and on solid footing as it could possibly be. He wasn't ushered out the door because of the controversy. Right. That's just not the case.
What you just said couldn't be more true, right? And I think we don't need to sit here and defend Coach Meyer, especially Ohio State fans. We know how solid that program is. I think everything that Coach Harbaugh said at Big Ten Media Days and the way he spun it totally was what you said earlier, and that's trying to save his job, right? Because in my mind, if he doesn't beat Ohio State this year with Ryan Day as the head coach, I think he's fired. And maybe Michigan fans, and I don't have any inside information, but year after year getting beat by your biggest rival, and especially last year, they had to beat Michigan State, otherwise he would have gotten fired. Knowing that you have these 2 games on your schedule, Michigan State and Ohio State, where if you don't win, like, you're gone. Yeah. I think he's trying to deflect some of that pressure. And I think he feels that pressure because someone that's that odd and quirky in the way he is, I bet he can't handle it from that standpoint.
He doesn't seem to be handling the pressure that well, as you said, Zach. And it's weird because the implication is if he's saying that, if you want to read between the lines, okay, Michigan is 0-4, but they're doing it the right way. There's no controversy. And that's just not true. They both have things off the field that are not ideal. But one is 4-0 and the other is 0-4. And that there's just no other way to say it.
No, I 1,000% agree with you. And like you said, if we're not even going to get into it, but the whole mental health issue that's going on with the kid that, is going to Cincinnati. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where there are issues and controversy everywhere you look. You're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids, right? Mm-hmm. Some of them are men, but kids for the most part, right? These are guys that are just leaving high school. In the generation that we're in, and I'm part of it, right? You're going to have issues that you're going to deal with, and it's all about, as a head coach, how you deal with them, right? And I think that's where, if Coach Meyer had one fault that we're talking about, it was that he cared so much about the kids and what they were going through that maybe he gave some slack to some coaches, right? And let some coaches get away with it. But that's not Coach Meyer's business. And that whole controversy too is a thing of itself. And there's so many different storylines and so many different stories that, there's things that aren't true or that are true, right? So for Coach Harbaugh to throw that out at Big Ten Media Days when Coach Meyer isn't at Ohio State, Zach Smith isn't at Ohio State, and none of the players that had any issues at Ohio State are still there, I don't know what his message was in trying to convey that.
Interesting timing when Urban Meyer's not there to respond anymore. So
no doubt.
Or put it on his bulletin board for the end of November because we know how much that would fuel him. Anyway, Lettermen Live brought to you by Buyers Auto. Talking with Zach Boren about. Let's focus just on Ohio State now. One of the first things that comes up. We can talk about the middle linebackers later, but Justin Fields has not earned the starting job. I wonder what you thought about that heading into training camp.
You know what? I think that's Ryan Day doing a great job at keeping guys on their toes. Coach Meyer was so good at never making guys feel comfortable, right? And there were always times where it didn't matter if you were, Dwayne Haskins to the third string linebacker, right? He was always pushing you in your own certain way, always kind of pushing you out of your comfort zone. So I think that's Ryan Day's way of challenging Justin Fields, saying, hey, we know you were learning the system in the spring. Come fall camp, you need to lock it in, right? Yeah, you're a great player. Yeah, you are the highest rated player to ever come to Ohio State, whatever it may be. But there are so many things that you need to get better at that you can't be complacent. You got to be on your toes, and you have to come in ready to work.
How would that message play in the locker room? Because one thing I keep getting asked over and over is, well, if he's going to be the starter, why don't you name him the starter so that you can go into these workouts in the summer and the team knows and they can rally around it? I'd say the flip side is, well, the rest of the team would maybe want that message that you have to earn it, and he's not giving the spot. So are there guys probably know?
For sure. The guys probably know that he's going to be the starter, right? But at the same time, the guys on the team, and especially the leadership of that team, respect Coach Day for pushing Justin Fields. It's when you're a player on that team, you hate to see guys just be complacent and go through the motions because you're trying to get better every day. And guess what? You want someone else to get better. And so the last thing you want, and I don't know Justin's, I'm not saying he's a complacent guy. Yeah. I'm just saying from Coach Day's standpoint, and even as a captain of the team, whatever it may be, you are constantly wanting to get pushed. And, it's easy to get complacent, especially during summer camp when you're grinding out there nonstop. In the middle of the season, when you go out to a Tuesday practice and you're in full pads and you feel terrible, right? There's easy ways to get complacent, but the great coaches are so good at getting guys to kind of flip the switch, right? And so I think that's Coach Day's way of saying, hey, Justin, we had a good spring. We've had a great summer. It's time to flip the switch. Yeah. It's go time now, right? So I'm not naming you the starter, but hey, it's just you need to get going, and this is my way of pushing you.
It's kind of funny. So in Chicago, the actual first question that Ryan Day faced at his first Big Ten Media Days was about the quarterback of the defense, middle linebacker, before Justin Fields, before replacing Urban, anything. And that sort of tells you, I think, about the struggles from the last couple of years that have been well documented. But Tough
here
Borland,
on Lettermen Live.
Yes, many times Buckeye Q. Good plug. Tough Borland to Roger Mitchell might be the most fascinating battle of August. What do you expect to happen? What needs to happen?
Yeah, in my mind, they are two totally different players, right? I think Tough Borland is a guy that is so smart and so football savvy and knows the defense inside and out that he is your quarterback out on the field, right? When you want to talk about Mitchell, I think he's a kid that I've been out to practice. I've seen one of the toughest dudes I have ever seen, especially his physicality and just the way he's able to fill the holes. There isn't really a guy on the team who is able to do it like he does. But I don't think he has the full understanding and the leadership that Tough Borland has, right? So they're completely two different players. You were getting a physical specimen, a guy who's in the middle of the defense you're gonna hear from him from a play standpoint, rather than Tough Borland, who's gonna be out there and maybe is able to communicate with defensive line and safeties and kind of be able to keep everyone on the same page, so to speak. But that's a decision they have to make, right? Can Jordan Fuller control the entire defense from the back? If he's able to do that, maybe you see Mitchell go in.
Okay.
But I also think it's one of those things without Washington being the new linebacker coach, I think you're going to see some rotating, right? You're going to see Mitchell get some series. I think you may see times where Tough Borland and Mitchell are both in at the same time. I think it's going to be, they're going to try and figure it out, especially early on, and get guys a lot of key plays. But God, man, there's some talent out there in the linebacker corps.
It's a good problem to have, as those coaches like to say. It's only, we got 9 days away. Camp is starting. Summer's over.
Hey, it's so good for me right now, but it used to be the worst time of the year. You'd be like, oh, man, here we go. You kiss your girlfriends goodbye and, say bye to mom and dad, and you are grueling.
Yeah.
They don't have 2 days anymore, though, which is so nice.
Really, it's different.
When I was there, man, there were 2 days, and there were times where, it was rough. But, these are the moments, though, that you look back to when you played, and that's kind of what you remember, right? There are so many memories that are made as you guys can only imagine, in a locker room full of 125 college guys, that you are waking up at 5 a.m. and you're not getting back to the hotel till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And there's some downtime in between there. Mark Pantoni and I are best friends, and we became best friends during camp. Because guess what? Every day during nap time, I'd go to his couch and lay in his office, and it's your time to kind of get away. But man, the memories that you make in there is so much fun, and guys get quirky and goofy, and it's just kind of where you find that 3-week time span is where you find your personality as a team.
And that's where we find a lot more content to
no
talk
doubt
about here on Lettermen Row. Can't wait for the season to start. Can't wait to have Zach back with us for year 2. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait at Lettermen Row. Now we're going to kick it over, bring Berman in, talk a little Ohio State recruiting as summer winds down. Now we welcome in Jeremy Birmingham, the director of recruiting for Lettermen Row, on location somewhere using the vacation dead period to get away from the home studios. Where are you at, Berm?
I'm in beautiful Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Enjoying the last week before football camp starts, before the recruiting dead period ends this weekend, and just really trying to get it all out. You know what I mean? Like, we know what's coming for the next 7 months, so trying to just find some R&R for the LR crew.
Well, it's great of you to join us on vacation for Letterman Live, brought to you by Byers Auto. You touched on that dead period, Berm. It's still been a newsy period for Ohio State, still picking up commitments, still gaining ground in the rankings. How pivotal is this final stretch there before training camp starts on August 2nd for the Buckeyes?
I mean, it's huge. I mean, especially for the running back situation, which we've talked about for months, is one of the most important positions in this class for Ryan Day, for Tony Alford. The Buckeyes should know by that day, by August 2nd, if they have landed their 2 top remaining targets at the position. Jalen Knighton from Deerfield Beach, Florida, will make his announcement on July 29th. And then on the 2nd of August, Bijan Robinson, the 5-star running back from Tucson, Arizona, makes his decision between Ohio State, Texas, and USC. And if either of those guys go the opposite way, things get really weird heading into the football season for Alford and the Buckeyes recruiting the running back position, because there's just really not a lot of other guys on that list. They're looking for the best of the best, the elite kids across the country at a position that they know they have talent on the roster, but not a lot of depth and not a lot of experience. And they really need to hammer this home. And right now they're in a good position with both those guys, but a lot of things can happen on the recruiting trail.
It's been funny to watch these last, 6 or 7 weeks unfold, and the positions filling up. You touched on this the last time we talked, that the numbers are starting to get crunchier, as you said, on Lettermen Row. But it's this linebacker position, I think, that's kind of got my attention right now. And I just thought about this today, and I want to get your thoughts. Are we seeing these guys that are maybe bullet or outside linebackers? Is the focus all there because right now Ohio State just feels so confident with Taraja Mitchell and Cade Stover that they don't need anybody in the middle? Is that a fair read on that situation?
Well, the thing is, Cody Simon can play in the middle. He's a potential Mike down the road. And then you have a guy like Court Williams who, with his decision, the Buckeyes are in a position where he could be a safety or a linebacker or the bullet position. And then you have Mitchell Melton, who at 6'4", 235 pounds, he could be a defensive end or a linebacker. He could be an inside guy. He could be an outside guy. And I think it's funny because I was told early in the process that Ohio State, they really don't have any room for linebackers in this class. But yet here they are with three guys that could potentially play the position. And one, especially with Cody Simon, that they know will play the position. The other two are sourceable and could be in a different spot. But ultimately, they have a lot of young talent at linebacker, and they know that they don't have to go crazy recruiting one. That's why they didn't go after really guys like Savell Smalls out there in Seattle, who is one of G. Scott's good friends, and why they've sort of taken it easy. They know that Cade Stover and Tommy Eichenberg and Taraja Mitchell, all those guys are young on the roster and waiting for their moment. So there wasn't a panic.
We've talked a lot about the rise of Brian Hartline, how successful Jeff Halfway's been. How does Al Washington fit into this mix for Ohio State so far?
Well, I mean, he's been what you expected him to be. He's an extremely, relatable guy to these recruits. He's an Ohio guy. He loves Ohio State, despite the fact that he coached last year at Michigan. And he's a player's coach. He's a guy that the players on the team really like being around. And he's starting to develop the relationships. He obviously, like Halfway, like everyone else on the Ohio State coaching staff, started a little bit behind the eight ball, but he's starting really well in the 2020 class now when you have these three guys in the mix. Reed Carrico, the top-ranked linebacker in Ohio for the class of 2021, is close to being in the class, and he's the type of guy that really serves as the linchpin of that group and the starting point for what will be a 3 or 4 man linebacker class likely in 2021. So, it's about being selective, and for all of the Ohio State assistants right now, it's so much about evaluating and figuring out, because this 2020 class is for all intents and purposes done. They have a really unique ability to get a head start on 2021 and really get ahead of their evaluations and relationship building.
All right, Berm, head out there to the beach and enjoy the rest of vacation. As you said, camp is starting next week. Appreciate you taking a couple minutes for us while you're on the road there. Appreciate Zach Boren hanging out. I'm Austin Ward. This has been Lettermen Live, brought to you by Byers Auto. See you next time.